Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. Rhett is out in the living room at the moment. My son should be dropping off his dogs probably in the next 20 minutes. So it'll get all crazy in here. So we are not gonna have her in here today. Also, yeah, sorry I missed yesterday. I actually had forgotten that I was going into the office. I forgot to mention that on Tuesday. So I went in the office yesterday. Officially a full-time employee now, which is just fantastic. And I had to get my parking set up. I used to have to like walk like probably almost a mile through multiple buildings to get to work. Now I get to park right across the street, which is nice. I used to pay $40 a month for the privilege of walking all that distance, and now I pay $20 a month to be right across the street, which is also very nice. Um, and Yeah, I had to get a new badge. My old badge was a temporary badge, like a temp worker badge, and now I have a full-time employee badge, which that's super nice. Just in general, everything's really nice. Have health insurance now, which is the first time in probably 10 years, so that's going to be nice. I don't really go to the doctor, but if if something were to happen, I would hate to lose my house because of you know, going to the doctors here. Here in the States, if you it's medicine is extraordinarily expensive. Um, you know, uh, I think minimum wage is $7.50 an hour. And if you went to like, let's say you had some sort of event, medical event, and you got into an ambulance and you rode to the hospital, and they just kind of looked at you and said, "Oh, okay, yeah, here's a pill. You can take this pill and you'll be fine." Like something that like is life-threatening but is very minor to fix. Um, you would probably pick up, at least in my area, a bill for about $3,000. So, you map that to $7.50 an hour that a minimum wage worker makes, and um, there's no, it's just not feasible for them to participate in the medical system that we have here. If insurance is extraordinarily expensive for the most part, and the if you uh, and it's okay because we have pretty good bankruptcy laws. Like if something were to happen that caused you to get a bunch of expenses, and you were to um, you could get rid of that. You get what they call a fresh start, but you have to give up all your assets above and beyond a certain amount. So if you have any equity in your home or anything like that, you will lose that. Or even a car, like if you had a car that was worth like $20,000 and you paid it off, and you would lose, you'd have to, they would take your car and sell it. To help pay any of the bills as part of the bankruptcy. So, it was a tough situation that we were in, but we have come out the other side, which is nice. Um, all right, so this application that I'm working on is like sort of a very, very slow motion software development effort. And the reason, and the most, there's lots and lots of reasons that I want to do it this way, but one of the biggest reasons is that I do a lot of things without really understanding why I do them. I just do them just from experience, and I'm trying to get a deeper understanding of it. And one of the things that I have found, like there's some applications where you don't really have a lot of features. It does something very simple. You write the code, and even if the code is very complex, there's not a lot of features. So it's fairly easy to keep those sorts of things going. I think kind of like a to-do list is a very good example. That's why it's very often an example. Um, there's to-do lists can get pretty complicated, but they don't usually have a whole lot of features. Um, but once you start really more getting a wider application where there's a lot of different features, a lot of different things you can do, um, it's very easy to either write a bunch of code that is like duplicate, like you have the same code over and over again, and then if you want to do some sort of maintenance, you've got to go find a change in 1,000 different places to fix it, or very abstract where there's one thing that does everything, But the problem is it's supporting dozens of features, and when you make a small change to that one thing, it causes one of your features to go sideways. Um, so that has been, I think, probably that's sort of the next in enterprise software development. That's probably the next dragon to conquer. We've solved a lot of issues, and we can build pretty big, impressive things, but we seem to have a problem once the feature list gets a past a certain amount. And I think the answer to that is something along the lines of Cypress end-to-end testing, where you can lock down your features. Because one of the main problems with the features is if a lot of times you don't even remember how it used to work. I've worked in plenty of places where we're like, oh wait, we haven't done this in like 3 months, and how did that even work? And unless there's a video or something of it, no one even remembers how it used to work. So now you're trying to fix something that you don't even remember how it works and all that. Well, that's end to end kind of locks those in for you. So we ran into one of the features that I would like to have is the ability to turn this thing called reflow off. And the reflow is basically to tell it to, hey, when you redraw, I don't want you to reorientate everything. I don't want you to organize everything. I want you to leave it the way it was. And that the idea is that at some point I would like to have like maybe a big visualization here with like three little visualizations to the side or something, or maybe a big visualization with another visualization sort of over the top of it or something like that, a smaller version so you can kind of see the big thing and the little thing, like a thumbnail or that kind of thing. And so I don't want it to redraw and reposition everything on every redraw. As I move from view to view, I want it to remember persist its old view. So I'm going to turn the reflow off. And what used to happen is you would hit add, add. You could add three things, and then you could close this. You go over here. You could delete this one, and what we would see when we came back is see how these redrew, and that's what we want in this view. When we came back, we wanted that to maintain its original position. And actually, we've completely broken it because now both of them are didn't redraw at all. So we were broken in the fact that it would redraw it and put it here, and now we're broken in the fact that it doesn't replace when we come back. It doesn't replace at all, which you often see that you'll often see a bug sort of kind of show itself, and then once you've uh, kind of started to work towards doing like the right fix for it, you start realize you end up making the bug even worse. And that is extraordinarily difficult to explain up the line. Um, so we apparently right here, because I put this comment on Tuesday, this is where we set the left button. And so we want to, and I don't know if these, for some reason, manual placement is never set to true on the last visualization. Okay, I think we fixed that issue. I'm not sure. I know that was a very an older issue, and old stale comments is probably one of your biggest enemies as a software developer. You really want to you really want to get rid of stale comments because they can be extraordinarily confusing. So, anyways, let's see what we have in here. Okay, so here's our viz array, and I don't know if this, yeah. So these are our actual ST visualization. Um, so I want to change that name. No, I don't even know. Okay, I'm just gonna put like this console. And I would say this is probably my most valuable skill is debugging, being able to find out what is wrong and find a fix for it. Now, probably one of my biggest weaknesses is many times my fixes are completely don't give are completely inconsiderate of the actual architecture. So set, I'm just going to say SCP for set calculation position, and then comma visualization S. I want to know that these are ST visualizations, and I want to print them out. Visualizations. See, I don't really like how I did that. I really should name this ST visualizations. And honestly, it didn't even it probably wasn't even an important distinction when we first wrote this code. But as this code has matured, it has become more and more. Okay, so interesting. Okay, yeah, we had this here just so we could, I wanted to show how what you see in the console is it when you print it out like this is actually the current value, not the value of the time at the time of the creation of the console log, but this is the value at the time of that. So, but a lot of times it's just not feasible to do the JSON stringify because of if if you have any references that reference back up the chain of the object to a closer to the root of the object, it will break. Um, Visualizations. All right, so everything works at first, right? Like it's still building. I guess I should wait for it to rebuild on its own. Okay. So on the first, everything works perfectly. This is exactly how we'd want it to work. Add. But then, so let's go ahead and just look at our. So I'm hitting F12. I remember why I don't really like using F12, and that's because when you have a big keyboard, F12 is available, but if it's very inconsistent on laptops. It doesn't always work the exact same way. You have to hit the function button, and it's just different. So visualizations. Okay, so here's our asterisk and all that. So you'll see we have a ST left. Now, I don't know if it's only broken when reflows off, so we should probably check that. Get rid of this thing and go to this view and then come back. Okay, so that never even got called, so that would be an indication of um, why it didn't why it didn't redraw, because the code that actually redraws it never gets called at all. So if I go back to this view, see now I have 9 IM view. Um, and then so there's like a little number here. So wherever this IM new is happening, we probably need to make sure that we call the redraw, but we probably only want to call the redraw when um, I don't even know what I was going to say. Um, so anyway, so this is in Viz component on line 49. So this is the actual Viz component. So it says I am new here. So at this point, okay, so let's go ahead and go to that. It's called Viz component.ts. Um, so it should be in my components. Normally, what I would do is I would actually do a search for that, but I'm trying to think more in trying to think more like where things are located as if they were in a building, as opposed to like a search in a big log of stuff. So yeah, here's the I am new. This render style. This is where we set the width. This component visualization render in native element. And then we pass in 4 things. Now, what you have to wonder about is like, is something asynchronously happening in there, or can we just call the next thing? And I'm guessing that there's some kind of asynchronous call in here. Now, the problem is that this viz component gets called in this situation too. But we really only want to call, I guess it doesn't matter because we changed. So technically, we probably only want to call that code that redraws everything. Um, we probably only want to call it when we're in this view. But from a practical perspective, it doesn't matter because the CSS, the way it's drawn, even if this does have a width and a height and left, a left position and stuff like that, probably doesn't even, it won't change. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It won't actually change the physical location of these things because um, every time because the way the CSS is, and it's probably actually useful to actually have the correct position now that I think about it in this position, because at some point we probably will want to actually be able to, actually 100% chance we're going to want to actually be able to set that in this view. So we're going to want to be able to bump it to the left or bump it to the right and then go back to that other view and see it. Um, so I think it makes sense to run that code, but when's it getting called now? I guess that's the next important thing to go back to. So I'm gonna hit this little back button to get me back to where I was coding. And I want to figure out, okay, when does set calculated positions get called at this point in time? Because we may not want to call it from there anymore after this. Okay, so it only gets called within itself right here. So this one is called calculate positions. And it doesn't take any kind of variable, so I'm assuming that it probably is only called locally as well. And that gets called from here. That gets called within a function called create visualization. Okay, so yeah, I guess when we create it, we do need to call it. But we also need to call it when there's a new one too. And I don't remember what this reset hash does. But it kind of looks like we need to do that too. But I'm going to ignore that for now. I'm assuming that's going to break something in the future. Um, so the thing is when we create a new one, it does do the drawing. But when we come back from a change, it does not do the drawing. So then the question mark is, should we draw it every time one of these guys gets done, or should we draw it when the entire outer component gets redrawn, gets changed? And I think we need to draw it after these are built because I think the whole component will change before these are built. I think what Angular does, and I don't think this is guaranteed, right? I think that this is what you would call as the classic race condition, where right now we're saying, hey, these guys get built after these, so I'm going to run it after each one of these things so that everything gets recalculated. Um, the other thing is like this gets built and it'll be done, but these won't be done. So when it tries to calculate things, it probably won't be able to actually figure out everything it needs to figure out now or in the future. So we probably should run it after every build. Now, if there was going to be 10,000 of these things, then we probably shouldn't do it that way. Or we should at least throttle it or something like that. We should add some additional code to prevent it from like, because it's going to run over and over and over again, like 3 times back to back. Um, but the absolute maximum that there's a browser limitation, and the absolute maximum number of these that could get drawn is oh good, it's only 8:30. Is 16. It'll never draw more than 16. So from a practical perspective, it does make sense to do these calculations after every build. That's no big deal. But let's say there was an unlimited number that could be added, well, then we got a problem. All right. So I think we go back to the viz component, and I think we go in here and just make sure that there's nothing that's happening asynchronously, because if something's happening asynchronously in here, then this next line of code would run. Um, but if something in here is happening asynchronously, go to implementation. So this just gets a render ID that should not be asynchronous. And then this also gets the renderer ID. Oh, okay, so one of them gets you the actual physical renderer, and the other one gets you the ST renderer. ST render service, and then we pass both of them into here, and then we return a success. And this is not asynchronous. This dot render set size, I don't think, so it doesn't look like we do anything asynchronous in here. So let's go ahead and go back. And I can't remember, is it visualization service that does the calculate positions? Okay, so calculate positions gets called from platform service. Oh, okay, so that was the thing, is I thought that, so it gets called here. Oh, okay, and create. Huh. So platform service is supposed to call it too. Apparently this one is not getting called. All right, we got to go look at this one. What is the story with this guy? Because I believe platform is. Oh, okay, this only handles resizes. So when we resize it, recalculates everything. Okay, that makes sense to me. All right, so basically this code calls a resize anytime you actually change the size. It recalculates all the positions because we want them to stay on the same screen. Um, so that was a unnecessary rabbit hole, but there's just a lot going on. That was a feature I wasn't even thinking about again. Um, and that's why it is so easy to mess up features. Okay, so now, so this guy calls this calculate. This calls the visualization service calculation, and that is the visualization service. And there, I don't believe, I don't know. I can't remember if there's ST visualizations or if it's ST. Yeah. But we want to call, we want this, we want to make sure we have this visualization service in our component. So that's the first step. Yep, and we do. Okay, so then we just want to call it, right? There's like, it doesn't even have like, it doesn't even have like um, any arguments. So you just call it. I am starting to like, now that I think about it, I really like in C sharp, you actually put a weight in front of everything that is, um, and you can do that in JavaScript. And maybe I'm going to shift over to that because it would be very helpful if I would have been able to call, if these were called with awaits. But see, you don't necessarily want to wait. Sometimes you're just like, hey, go do this, and I don't care. But I don't think it will unless you subscribe to it. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think through that. Um, it is interesting because you have to learn other technologies. Like I have to be aware and understand React a little bit, even though I never ever work React. I have no intention of ever working React. I need to understand it because like in the React technology stack, they may come up with a really good innovation. and it's just a matter of time before that innovation invades every other technology stack. And so, but a lot of times when they shoehorn some innovation from another stack into the stack that you're working on, it's not very easy to understand. It's much easier to understand in the context of wherever it originated, not in the new context. So, like apparently Signals was completely invented in a different technology stack. Um, Now, I never did go learn that other technology stack. Maybe I should have spent some time in that to understand Signals a little bit better, um, because they seem extraordinarily simple but mysterious to me. Okay, so I believe this will fix the problem, but I'm not sure. Right? Until you actually fix it, you don't know. So the first problem was just like period. It breaks when it comes back. Oh, it didn't get called. Or it did get called but didn't work or something. Yeah, so it did get called, right? Because we don't have like the nine uh I am news. We had like I am new, but it was like had these little numbers like these, and then see, interestingly, I'm pretty sure manual placement needed to be true for these. Oh wait, that's interesting. So it is actually correct, the value, but for some reason it's not being drawn on the screen. Oh, and I think it's because of the order. I actually need to set those values now that I think about it. And I don't know why this has become so obvious to me at the moment, but so calculating the positions, okay, all this does is calculate the positions, but it doesn't actually draw them. Interesting. So I wonder if we do it this way, if it'll, no, so it recalled calculate positions, but it never draws. But it does do it the first time around. So we do this, add, and then it calculates and draws. Now, why? It's probably something in the add, so we need to kind of search through the add functionality. So basically, is this is a in the menu components. So let's see if we can. Okay, so here's how I would normally do this. I would right click on this, I would do inspect and see if I can figure out what function is being called. App menu, button. I don't see. Oh, well, maybe we have to open this up. Okay, so it's this button. So he doesn't have anything. Just has add viz, and then we have a reflow button. So for some reason, we don't even see why what's getting called in here. But and so a lot of times I'll have like click handler. It's so weird that we don't have the click handler anywhere. And I would like to understand that. So let's go to our layout, not our menu. Okay, we have two menus. We have app menu and app layout menu. So this is app menu, it looks like. And so if we come in here, I'm just curious. See, I wonder why we don't see this over here in the there. I feel like there was a time where you would see the add button. Let's see. This is called add menu. Yeah, Oh, okay, because it's adding the button. Oh, and here's the add button that I was looking for. And right next to it should have the click handler, but it doesn't. So I don't know. I don't know why that is. I know that at work when we're on Angular 10 or 11, you can right click and see that. Now this we don't have Angular material though, so it could be that material is sort of redrawing the DOM element and then handling the click handling otherwise. But we do know that is in this click add view handler. So let's go over here, find click add view handler. So this one funny thing is like if you do JavaScript, right? Like we can name these and we can move them around however we want. Um, and it won't affect anything. But if you try that in CSS, it will break things. So a lot of times some people will go in and say, "Oh, I want all these in alphabetical order so that I can find them easier," and it works great. And then they go, "Okay, now I'm going to do that in my CSS," and then like it breaks things and it breaks things in such a subtle way because in a tiebreaker for CSS, CSS has rules and they have this concept called specificity. And the specificity, every element has a specificity score. And many times those specificity scores tie. And if they tie, then it's whichever one came in last that wins. And so when you change the order of the CSS, it can break things. But and then also just changing the order of like HTML and stuff like that can because the way or components and things like that, the way that Angular pulls those CSS in dynamically could cause something to break. And those are very difficult to debug. Add visualization, UI service, add renderer, go to implementation, publish renderer change. Ooh, is it in here? Publish renderer change, st render signal. So it takes that and then it does this st render signal. So I'm guessing that's how we actually ended up in the effect of Viz component. It's probably listening. Or does it even have an effect? Oh, it doesn't. Yeah. No. Okay, so we don't even have an effect in here. So maybe it's in the menu in its parent, which is in layouts. At custom. So this guy has an effect, and I'm assuming that something in here, update visualizations layout, is set up DOM visualizations. I'm wondering, I bet you it's, well, animation service though. Maybe it's in this visualization service. That is where we've been doing a lot of stuff. This setup visualizations, visualization items, upsert. Oh Lord. All right. So this I think has gotten a little bit too weird. So what I want to do is work backwards now. Okay, so this is viz set st left. Okay, but this is st stuff, so it's not actually physical. We're trying to find out where it physically changes the left position of the actual visualization. Right is equal, so get next available right. Oh, and I think that's happening in the animations now that I think about it, because we had to. Oh, and it could be that hash string isn't changing. Okay, so let's try this. Add, add. Because I knew I didn't want to recalculate everything all the time. So the hash string was part of that. I couldn't remember it. Um, couldn't remember that. But and so then and then oh, add. Oh, now it's not working at all. That's interesting. So okay, so whatever is happening, add doesn't fix it either. All right. So what we want to find is the code that redraws the, let me come here. Are there a bunch of them? Oh yeah, okay. And then the last one's moving the slowest, apparently. Um, so what we're looking for is the code that actually does the drawing. I'm pretty sure that's part of animations. So whatever is in animations, I think that draws that sets the positions. Is anything broken in the console? It's really weird to me that it quit working. And it is weird that we only have three because there's way more than three. Yeah, so we're never even getting over here anymore. And add. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We're not even getting this SP visualizations or it's being different. SCPs visualizations. Oh, there's only one. Oh, how weird is that? Okay, that is very strange. So apparently one of these one of these arrays is just way out of sync with all the rest of the array, or with the whatever this is reading off of is out of sync with whatever what with this group. Um, so that is a weirdo. That's very weird. Um, oh, interesting. Okay, so now it works. And see, we still just have the three. The fourth one never came in. So it never got added to whatever list this is using. So yeah, it looks like I don't know what I have done here. This is the kind of thing that like I would probably typically go heads down, not and just sort of drop into like a different level of consciousness and just wake up on the other side with it all fixed. And I don't want to do that. I want to actually think through and understand why things are fixing. Now, again, we do know that the problem at this point is not necessarily the location of the things. As a matter of fact, I guess we could just validate that by looking in here and seeing if the yeah, see, these are right. These are in fact correct. It's just not drawing. It's not drawing them in the right spot. And additionally, it's not adding whatever this list is, it's not adding them to that list. So um, that architectural problem where we started moving the visualizations and stuff around has had like some sort of deep foundational has broken things at a very, very low level. This is like when I first sort of realized, oh man, I have to refactor the way these underlying pieces work together. I was like, this is like having to take your foundation of your house and break it open so you could put all the concrete that's already dried and hardened and break it open so that you can get um, new pipes in there, and there's a good chance that if you don't, if you could botch it and completely destroy the house. Um, so It's pretty scary stuff. Yeah. So I guess tomorrow we got to figure out, I think, why it's not adding. I think that's the next thing. So basically, the problem is, let's just run through the problem one last time. Add, go over here, go back, add. Now there's still only the one. It's a different one though, because it's animated differently. Um, oh, and it is the new one, not the old one. Oh man. Okay, so add. It's got, oh no, that's the old one. Okay. And then it is weird that its visualization ID is 9. Add. So now we have two, one with a visualization of 9 and one of 19. And then come back over here, delete, and then come back over here. And it deleted. We still have our 9, but if we add, we still only have the 9. It doesn't actually add it to this list. I think that's the next thing that we need to try to figure out and fix. I do not think any of the changes that I made today actually helped anything. They probably made things worse. But sometimes you have to get in there to see. You have to do some damage along the way to try to figure out what the actual underlying problem is. And I think that's where we're at right now. And I've really never even had those thoughts before. So anyways, happy coding everybody. Bye.